This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Sean Preston.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today, we have an awesome neighbor on with us, and that is Dr. Chris Schell of Foveal Vision Training. What's going on, Chris?
Not much.
Nothing like doing the same thing twice in a row, eh?
Exactly.
Forget to hit the record button. So welcome, everybody. Super pumped to have Chris on with us. Talked a little bit before I hit the record button about the Super Soaker event we got going on in the Art of Bluffs. Chris has a couple of businesses that we're going to dive into here today, and one of them is right on the corner of Arda and Ferndale, right in the heart of the Art of Bluffs. I grew up there on James Street for about 15 years. I used to play with my friends in that parking lot before there was really anything else around, which is maybe dating me at this point, but it's come a long way. So Chris, why don't we dive straight into it, and why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your business?
Yeah. As you're mentioning, I have two clinics in Barrie. Moved to Barrie in 2003. Opened one of my practices in 2010, and it's a general practice. We do eye exams, fit contact lenses, sell glasses. And early on, I had patients that I wasn't able to help with the tools that I had, and I took some more training and courses and kind of went back to school, and then felt that I could help more patients with a service known as vision therapy. So just under 10 years ago, I opened Foveal Vision Training, and we work with kids and adults with vision problems not solved by drops or glasses or contacts. These people have trouble with reading, with writing, with focus, with concentration. And I would say the majority of our clientele are students, kids, high school and public school age that maybe test very well in an eye exam as far as reading the eye chart, but they have really poor eye coordination, eye teaming. Maybe one eye is dramatically stronger than the other, and we're trying to rehab that. The second major group we work with would be concussion recovery. Again, can be kids, but typically, we have a lot of people who've been in a car accident, have whiplash or concussion, maybe a slip and fall, and they're people that potentially were functioning really well and normal, but because of the head injury, they've lost their eye coordination, their eye teaming, their tracking ability, just able to, it's like they don't know how to use their eyes anymore. So we're trying to rehab those individuals, and they're the main two categories that we work with.
What are some exercises that somebody would do to maybe rehab some of this stuff?
Yeah, I often say to my patients, they ask me just in general, what's good for your eyes or what can you do? And my standard answer is, if it's good for your body, it's good for your eyes. So, we all could probably improve our quality of our sleep and eat well and exercise, but we don't. I was once told that there's many problems come from lack of movement. And I think most people think that's lack of movement of, arms and legs and the body, but we stare at screens a lot in today's world, right? Whether it be books or technology or devices. And there's a lack of movement from that, and it's lack of eye movement. And then the other piece of that puzzle would be the lack of our brain movement. Sometimes, unfortunately, with technology, it's taking away some of our creative thinking. I think that being bored is what some kids and adults need, and that's where the greatest things come from. But we're exposed to so much thinking for us that it is mind numbing. So I always say that with vision training, we are actually getting people to move their body, but also it's their eyes that are guiding them, controlled by their brain. So it's moving all those three parts that really drive me to help more people.
That's really interesting.
I guess I didn't answer your question about the eye exercise. It's hard to answer. Like there are some basic stuff where, hey, can you cross your eyes? There's a number of kids and adults that cannot cross their eyes, or maybe they can just if they look at their nose, but they can't do anything in between. So we have to design creative ways of teaching them how to engage that software. So it's not muscle training like if you go to the gym, but it's more coordination training and becoming aware. Most of us, we open our eyes and we look we don't realize, are we using both? Am I using one? My hands, I can see them. So I know if I'm right-handed or left-handed. Now I do try to use both in lots of situations, but eyes are unique, kind of like we have this center vision, but really it's the combination of the two that makes it the most effective. And some people either never learned how to do it, like the kids in school that are struggling, or the person's had a concussion. They've lost that ability. We want to give it back to them or help them get it back.
Yeah, I've never had a concussion, but I've known some people who have, and it's a pretty crazy post experience from that, with headaches and having to be in a dark room. And so that's a wonderful service that you offer to help, bring people back from that.
Yeah, you nailed it. That light sensitivity is almost universal and then headaches. Now headaches can be from a variety of sources, but your eyeball is the strongest connection to the brain, our visual sense. And so when it's altered, it's like you don't want to be touched. So light is hitting your eye, which is touching the brain. It doesn't want to be touched. So yeah, anyone with light sensitivity, sometimes that's not a training exercise as much as trying to find maybe a therapeutic tint, right? We've all heard of sunglasses, should wear them, but sometimes that's not enough, or it's not the right color. And so sometimes we can, as much as we do eye exercises and vision physio for people, we sometimes are giving them tools that they've never heard of or been exposed to. And then that's a big piece of their rehabilitation.
So clearly you're oozing the expertise at the present moment. I can feel the passion for what you do and how you speak about all of this stuff. Where does that passion come from? Tell our listeners a little bit about your journey into getting into doing what you're doing today, and that passion that you have.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town, Cannington. It's on the other side of Lake Simcoe. And my father's a veterinarian, and I loved going on calls with him as a little kid, and it was fun. I loved the kind of detective work. I loved the things he did, surgeries and medications and things. It was really fascinating to me. But I like animals, but I'm more of a people person. So my dad, I learned a lot from him. He ran his own business and things, so definitely learned a lot from him. But that was never going to be my passion. I had really terrible eyes. Grade 1, I started wearing glasses. Teenage years, you get into contact lenses. And one of the biggest things that happened to me that really put me on this path was a bad eye injury. Playing pond hockey with my younger brother, his stick came up, hit me in the eye. I was wearing contact lenses at the time. Tons of blood. I fainted. Actually, I wasn't that. I didn't have a strong stomach for things like that. And yeah, luckily his buddy was there. He said, "I don't think your brother's okay." And I got seen at a hospital by ophthalmologists. So I'm an optometrist, but at that time I was seen by 2 different ophthalmologists. There was actually damage internally as well as the external bruising and cutting. Fortunately, I didn't need surgery. Had to wear a patch actually for probably a couple of weeks. And wow. That really, at 16, 17, I'm like, man, my depth perception. I was trying to still do things, and you really sometimes you don't appreciate what you've got till it's gone. And around that time, I was thinking about next steps. High school's coming to an end. I mentioned to my guidance counselor about, well, what do you think about eye care? And they didn't know a ton, but they had a niece that was in optometry school, and she raved about it. And I talked to my own personal optometrist during that time, and it really got me excited. Like, okay, this is now that I've had this problem, and yes, I recovered. I got into school, and later on, I decided to have the laser eye surgery. So to me, everything I do is about eyes. I've unfortunately had trauma and accidents, but I've also worn glasses and contacts, had surgery, and now I wasn't very good at crossing my eyes as a kid, and I think anybody would benefit from a lot of the different services that are out there. I didn't know vision therapy existed, and it really just everything that's happened to me has shaped my career, and I love learning new things. And now I feel that even though I'm much older than I was when I was 16, my vision is at a really good place right now, which is cool. I was able to help myself as well as help others.
Really cool story. I certainly share the queasiness. I'll thank my mother from that because, anytime I'm in a room and there's people are talking about like veins or blood or getting stitches or like my dad told me funny, not funny story. Last week, they just got those new kayaks with the pedals.
Okay.
And you can put fishing rods on them. And they live just on the corner of Midhurst and Barrie. There's a little creek there. They can just launch them there. And of course, we're going camping in a couple of weekends. They're going to bring them out there. Just something for mom and dad to go like do now.
Yeah.
And I guess my dad was pedaling in and he went under a tree. And then, of course, that he had to tip over, but he landed on a rock. Oh. And he's like severely bruised from halfway up his thigh all the way almost up to his hip. And so, of course, he's got to show me. And like I could barely, look at that kind of stuff. I remember when I got my first like real job, I was like an inside sales rep at a company here locally, and they make fire hydrants. So for Halloween, everybody dressed up. Well, I decided to go big or go home. I made a fire hydrant costume out of nothing. I ended up cutting with an X-Acto knife. I had to go get like 2 stitches, but the one I cut myself, like my mom knew right away. She came in, she brought me to the sink and she ran and grabbed the chair. And the second I went down, I ended up just landing in the chair. I'm like super queasy that way. But so if you are as well, how does because I know you got to look into, when I see those eye charts and everything, I always can't handle it.
Yeah, it is. I think when I'm in control, I'm okay. If you're sticking a needle in me, I have to lay down if I donate blood or physicals and health tests. But there are times where someone has something in their eye and I'm using a needle to remove it. Luckily, it doesn't happen all the time. We have a drill that we sometimes use, and the drill is pressure sensitive. You push too hard, it stops. But imagine hearing something buzzing as it's coming at your eyeball. For me, that's no problem. But obviously, for patients, it's a different experience. One of my worst patients was my brother. He got when you weld, there's something called slag, and he was melting and heating, and it shot up in his eye and it stuck to his eye. And so he come in, and of course my brother, right? I'm like, well, we got to get this out. And he was I needed like 3 people to hold him down. It wasn't going to happen, but again, we got it out. He's fine. And so it is interesting for me. Like, again, I remember fainting when my dad took his liver out one time when I was like 9 years old before getting on the bus. And it's funny how if it's my body that's damaged or hurt, look out. But for me to help others, it's so much easier. I feel like I guess I'm more control.
I wish I had that, man. I got blood drawn like, I don't know, 5-6 months ago, and I told the lady, I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna look out the window. If I do that, I should be like pretty good. And then next thing you know, I wake up and I'm on her.
I just tell them, right, can I lay down? They said, no, we don't have a chair. I'm like, well, then I'm gonna lay down on the floor because I'm gonna go down no matter where I look.
You make me feel so good about myself. I rarely meet people who are queasy like me. I feel
needles are not my friend. Again, if they're sticking in my body.
Yeah, true. Yeah, my middle sister she can't do the needle thing, but needles I'm kind of okay with. But I guess it just depends, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to your line of work, Chris, are there any like myths or misconceptions that you get out there?
Yeah, I especially in the vision rehab space, there's certainly a belief that it doesn't work, that you can't train vision, and that's always bugged me. And obviously because I'm providing it as a business, but every other sense or every other part of your body you can train. Ask a musician. My brother loves music and guitar. Like he can hear a song on the radio and play it. He thinks he's got a good voice, but he's been practicing. He's getting better. So, you can train singing, you can train hearing, a chef, sense of smell, sense of taste, physiotherapists, massage therapists, family doctors, their sense of touch, incredible. So, you're telling me every other part of your body you can train, but not your vision. And then I look at, the best athletes in the world. If you ask them what their secret is or what their most valuable tool is, 9 times out of 10, they'll say it's their vision. They have, and it's not the 20/20 that we often think of. It's fast reaction time. It's peripheral awareness. It's speed and again, clarity.
Hand-eye coordination.
Yeah. And yeah, a lot of people call it eye-hand coordination. That's my personal pet peeve. Sorry, hand-eye. A lot of people, maybe you said eye-hand. Hand-eye, to me, is just semantics, but your hand doesn't tell your eye anything. It's eye-foot, eye-hand. I would argue it's eye-body coordination. The gymnasts and the people that, they close their eyes and visualize, that's still vision. their whole routine when we're watching the Olympics. It's really cool to see people use their vision in different ways, but they all use it. And bodybuilders don't dominate sports, right? It's not all about biggest muscles. It's to me, it's that vision piece. So, to think that vision training's, a waste of time, a waste of money, a waste of resources. I believe you can train anything. I'm teaching people how to learn how to use their eyes, just like someone might teach you how to learn Spanish or learn piano. We give vision lessons. I'm a vision coach. People try out for my team and I see if they're a good fit. Can they be a candidate for our program? And then we have personal trainers, therapists that work one-on-one to give them those skills, to coach them along the way. And it's really cool.
Really, really, really fascinating stuff, because it's not something that you typically come across, on a day-to-day basis. But knowing that stuff is out there, I mean, education is the biggest thing in today's day and age. The currency everybody plays with is trust, and there's so much information, like we were talking about earlier, where you can go down any rabbit hole on the internet to try to find information. This just happened last week. We were having a discussion with somebody who's an expert, a doctor in veterinary medicine, and where'd you get your information from? And right, did you get it from this website? Did you get it from Google? Did you get it from here? Because these are the facts. These are the clinical trials. This is, especially when it comes to the healthcare side, it's very serious stuff, and that's why we have experts doing it. So a breath of fresh air to see that kind of stuff is out there, and I'm kind of fascinated by it. We have a lot of different businesses come on the show, a lot of different things. I'm a sports guy, a natural athlete, played sports my entire life. I would totally agree with you that eye-hand coordination is what led me to be able to, make a pass in hockey, or receive a pass, or pick a pocket on a goalie, make a play, diving for volleyball. I love beach volleyball. So, all that stuff is so funny, Chris. Like, I was sitting on my bed yesterday, and it was at the end of the day, and I was just in my own thoughts. I think I was changing. I was putting on comfy clothes, and I just sat there for like a minute. I just kind of took a breather, and for whatever reason in my own brain, it popped up, and I'm like, hey, you got 5 senses right now. Like, which one can you not live without? Right. Or if you had to pick 4, which one are you dumping? It'd have to be like smell or taste, like based off of what I do for a living, based off of what I like to do for hobbies. I'm like, I could do all of them if I didn't have a sense of smell or a sense of taste. I am a foodie. I did 80% of what you taste come through your nose. So that one's up for debate.
It's really cool you mentioned that, because in school there was like the survey, people, given you could live to be 90 but be blind for 10 years, or have great vision but you only live to be 75 or something. And people were willing to trade years of living to keep perfect vision. And I get it. I sympathize with it. I'm in the industry, but as I see patients of all ages, it's really, hearing loss is actually more isolating, right? I can have a conversation with you and not have my vision. I mean, be blind, so to speak. And so, as much as vision is super important, that philosophical question, I wouldn't want to trade any of my senses, but hearing from a social and interacting with others side of it, if you've never had, like, yes, there's sign language and other things, but to lose something and not have those other skills, I'm starting to move, as I get older, hearing up the ladder of senses I don't want to lose. COVID knocked me out, and I had that sense, like, it is not fun to lose your smell and taste. I would say probably a solid 2 months, and I'm like, might as well eat healthy. I couldn't taste anything, and it was very, and you couldn't smell chlorine, or it's like it was anybody that has sense of smell loss, I feel for them. I mean, hey, we need all of our senses. Let's not trade any. But the taste and smell it's quite depressing for that. Again, I'm glad I got it back, and it's there, but don't want to lose any of them.
I'm a big social butterfly, so hearing for me that's huge. That's a big thing. I'm a movie watcher as well too, so I like watching my hearing is not the best. I know definitely as I get older, it'll be, I'll have hearing aids. I already know. But so I like to watch the subtitles on.
Yeah.
Especially if you're watching something like a Game of Thrones or something, there's a lot of stuff that you can't hear that's in the background that people are saying that sometimes could be valuable information.
That's so true. I sometimes don't like that it's preemptive. You know how it's like sometimes it's ahead of, ahead of what.
Off?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well,
yeah.
or if it's off, or it's just, they put a whole sentence up there, but the person hasn't gotten to that part of the sentence. It's like, that part would be, personal pet peeve.
Yeah, totally. So we have, I like to call it a harmony. Okay? Some people call it a balance, and it's kind of like how you were saying, eye hand versus hand eye. This would be like pet peeve. For me, if it's people call it, well, I have a work-life balance. It's never really truly a balance if you think about it, because we typically work more than we get to play and have our personal lives, especially as a business owner. So when we're not working on our business or in our business, what does Chris like to do for fun?
Yeah, well, I'm married and have 4 kids, and the oldest is 17, 14, 12, and 9. And so that definitely keeps us busy. In the summer, we really kind of picked up interest in the pickleball craze that's going around. And it's great because all of us can play it together or individually or one-on-one. And we have grandparents in the area, and they have a court at their house on the tennis court kind of thing. And so now my 75-year-old grandmother can play with the 9-year-old son, her grandson.
That's cool.
And it's cool. It's just a lot of fun. And my older boys, we try to get out and golf once in a while. Winters, we love the skiing as a family. We try to go on a ski trip. And all of my kids are curlers, and that's something that I introduced them to as a sport.
Wow.
And I love that sport. And, especially the way winters are now, if you don't have an indoor winter activity, it's not always as fun that season. So, with that mix of, skiing when you can and the conditions are right, and then curling is certainly a passion that I had as a kid, and it's spilled over, and my kids are really getting into it, and it's starting soon. I used to think of curling as a winter sport, and it's actually I think this weekend my kids, one of them's going to be on the ice, and then they have an event the long weekend, the Labor Day long weekend. So it's more of a fall sport, the curling world.
That's awesome. So do you watch it on TV, like Scotty's Tournaments of Hearts and all that stuff?
Yeah, we took the family last year. The buyer was in London, and it's the men's, provincials or men's competition, and it was a hoot. I grew up playing against some of the guys that are now there, and it's just, curling's a small world, and it's just another one of those social sports where, again, my 9-year-old could be on the ice with his grandma, and they could have fun. So I love sports that you can do as a group. You can play for, when you're little to you're old, and it's great because it's doesn't, if you want to get into, it's in the Olympics now, if you want to get into the tour and stuff, you can, but you can also play it once a year and have a hoot, and it's social. And, being active and being with friends and family is when you have the time away from work, you gotta have that option.
Yeah, 100%. I just proposed to my fiance last Friday, so we eventually want to go down that road and have at least 2,
Yes.
maybe more. 4 is a pretty big number in today's day and age. So I commend you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll tell you a funny story. My old man, he's when he had my youngest sister, so we're 3, 2 younger sisters. His one buddy came over to him and he goes, "Randy, you're doing it again." He goes, "What's going on, man? What's wrong with you?" And he's like, "I'm just digging the hole a little deeper."
No, having one child, your life is forever changed. And for us, it's like anything in life. You only know what you know. So when people say you're crazy, it's got, well, especially when COVID happened and we're all tucked indoors. They had someone to fight with, to play with, to entertain. It was not a fun time per se, but I have friends that have, one child, and they were just going stir crazy because it's quiet. It's too quiet sometimes.
Right.
I'm envious of that. We don't get much quiet time in our home, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's just tons of laughs. Yeah, there's drama, but I think there's drama in everybody's life, and I think it keeps us, me and my wife, busy and feeling younger because you got to try to keep up with them. So it's a hoot. And congratulations on that next step for you.
Golfing with your sons. My dad and I golf in the men's league. Been golfing for quite some time now. Do you golf at a particular golf course around here? Do you guys like to bounce around, or?
Yeah, we bounce around. I mean, I've never been a member locally. We played a couple rounds at Allendale. It's kind of kind of tucked away right near our home, and it's beautiful conditions, just 9 holes. And we played that a couple times. We tried one of the simulated centers. I don't know if you've been to that. And it was, so I have 2 older boys, a daughter who's 12, and then the younger son who's 9. And the 4 boys, it was kind of fun. We went, and I could see in a few years that's a cool foursome, in the golf world, to go out with them. And we had fun. I mean, it was certainly, I don't think dragging a 9-year-old around the golf course if he's not having fun would be enjoyable. So the simulated, he got to hit a few balls, and the putting was simulated, so he was having fun with that. And it was a hoot. It was a rainy day, so it was a perfect fun thing to do as a family. And again, you could see into the future where, hey, we're all maybe doing that as a family. My wife does play a bit, and my daughter, I think she'd get into it too. So it's spending time with family, there's nothing better.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. All my family lives in Winnipeg, so it's just my immediate family that lives here.
They must be curlers then, are they?
So mom and dad got into curling. They started when they were really, like, they were on my age, like in their mid 30s. They were curling with everybody down there. Obviously, Manitoba, big popular for that sport.
Yeah.
They moved here, kind of got away from it, and then since dad retired, they're getting back into that. And like you said, a social thing where they can go out and just meet more people and all that kind of stuff. But
so are they members like Barrie Curling Club, or do you know?
Yeah. So great little spot for them. And then my youngest sister moved from Newmarket, so now she's like 4 minutes from my door. Oh. And then my middle sister was living with me, and then she got a place just down the hill. So, and then mom and dad are in Midhurst, northwest of the city. So we're just all kind of right connected there. So it kind of worked out. In life, we pick this path, right? The path of life we walk, that path, we make decisions based on what we think are the right decisions. But at the end of the day, we're only human. And sometimes life will get in the way. It'll throw obstacles at us, life challenges, hardships we go through, struggles. Sometimes they're in forms of tragedies. Some people get it easier than others. It's the roll of the dice, as they like to say. But what I've always been fascinated about are the resilience that we have, because we have to move forward. So, mindset, seeing the glass half full, silver linings, they all play into this type of thing. And so I wanted to ask if you ever experienced a hardship, a life challenge. Maybe you overcame it, maybe it made you better, maybe it made you stronger, maybe you took some silver linings from it.
Yeah, so much of what I do is for my family, right? Is to make things so they have opportunities and that they're happy and healthy. And I was working at a practice, and things were going really well. We were discussing the opportunities of partnering up and stuff. And at the long story short, at the last possible moment, it wasn't going to work out, and I had no other option, so I had to still work there. And it was this really weird time in my life as far as a professional, but also as okay, what am I going to do? Because there's no more opportunity where I thought. And for a solid year, I was just in a really weird headspace of this isn't, anxieties and stresses, and you'd go into work, and it's no fun going somewhere where you don't want to be there. I mean, I loved being with the patients. I loved what I did, but the outside of that, it was just say the old saying, if you're in hell, just keep going, you'll eventually get through it. And that was me. And I did eventually couldn't hack it, I guess. And I took probably 4 months away from everything. I wasn't working, didn't really see what opportunities I could have. But, after you put yourself back together and get some good mentors and talk to people, not necessarily in your field. I mean, business is business. I made some some great connections, strengthened relationships with friends from school that are in different programs, and you realize, all right, there are opportunities. You just have to come up, write down your ideas, whether they're crazy or practical. Like, okay, go to a lawyer, go to a bank, get a real estate agent, whatever it is. You got to get the right team. My dad always said, do what you do best and hire professionals for the rest. And so if you try to wear every hat imaginable, you're just going to snowball into a deep, dark place. And I definitely took a long time, but now it's all worth it. And I always think things happen for a reason. And so if things hadn't fallen apart at the last hour, I wouldn't be owner of 2 businesses, trying to build and grow the Vision Therapy Center, helping more people. I may have been stuck working in a situation that I didn't love, and maybe would have not stuck with the career. Like I know colleagues that will practice well into their 70s and 80s, and I see why, and I see that passion, and I feel like that's made. Yeah, it was a rough year and several months of just how am I going to pay these bills, but it's turned around, and I know life will have more challenges, but like you said, resilience and perseverance. Sometimes it's not always the smartest or the you got to work hard, but sometimes it's that persistence and realizing. I always like to think, what's worst case scenario, what's best case scenario. Usually somewhere in the middle happens, and if I have a plan for worst case and a plan for best case, then I'm usually hopefully okay. And then having the support of family. My wife's a school teacher, has a very secure job, and it's certainly her support and the kids coming home. You have a bad day and someone gives you a hug, or you go play catch, or you play ping pong. It's like, you realize there's a lot of other things in life that are more important than some of the work stresses.
Yeah, 100%. And look at the difference, right? When you're passionate about something, when you go in, like, it's not work for you. It's
right? Totally. I sometimes, the weekends are fun, but now when the kids are busy, they're away on the weekends, like, I want to get back to work. There's the people that I get to see, the people that I get to help. It is exactly that. When you love what you do, it's not a job. It's like you say, it's a passion, and it's got to be fun.
100%. I will totally agree with that. I had something similar. I landed in the car business for about 9 years, and we built something pretty magical, especially for not having the background, the history, the expertise of being in there. Was a sales director for an automotive marketing firm. We grew that to like $12.5 million in 9 years. I remember when it was like getting $1 million in sales in 1 year, to them in March of 2020, we hit 1 million in 1 month. We were going to take over the world, and then COVID killed the microchips, right? Killed that plant in Taiwan, and then that just turned the automotive industry upside down. So we would help client retention. Well, now the supply was the demand was a lot higher than the supply, so we kind of were obsolete for the time being. So I watched everything I built for 9 years. I was the first guy on the ground, and just slowly declined into absolutely nothing. And then having a midlife crisis at 31. I remember talking to my uncle, said, like, this was like 3 years prior to that. He's like, oh man, when you hit 30, your 30s are going to be the best. You got everything dialed in. You got your job. You probably have to start a family. You probably have a house, this and that. And so far until January last year, I feel like that was not exactly that. And then having to rebuild my life from the ground up, from nothing. But here we are. We're finally back, and now looking to build and put forth that goodwill like you do every day, and just try to make the world a better place. Help as many people as you can, because if you help as many people as you can, you'll eventually get what you want.
Exactly.
So what's one thing that you wish our listeners knew about your business?
I mean, in simple terms, that we existed. I think if you asked people on the street, have you ever heard of vision training or vision therapy? I would say 1 out of 10 might say, oh yeah, I think I heard something about it. And so, the other therapies, speech therapy, most people have heard of, occupational therapy, physiotherapy. We're part of that team. We're part of that group. We get a lot of interprofessional referrals from our physiotherapists, occupational therapists. It's been great, but I think public awareness is key. There's a optometry itself is a wonderful profession. There's lots of great eye doctors in the area. There's a couple of clinics that do exactly what I do, and I think that if everybody that needed our services knew we existed, we could use 10 more vision therapy centers. I mean, it's a hidden secret. It shouldn't be a secret. It's a great service. I encourage people to say, I don't always tell people to Google things. Like you said, you can get into some rabbit holes, but vision therapy, read the questionable things about it, but also read all the good stuff, ask the questions, visit it, people that have done it. And again, as athletes, that's the other group that we don't work as much with, but a performance edge doesn't mean you have a problem. You just want to get better. You can't make your eyes or your brain too strong. So we're here to help people with that.
Phenomenal stuff. Great conversation. Love the topic. Seeing your place for a long time growing up as a kid. And I feel like I'm meeting a hockey player, can I have your autograph? Get an opportunity to come on our show, use our platform to tell such a wonderful story. Super happy to have you on and doing this. I'm sure there are people that are interested, that want to know more, that want to learn more. And for those who do, what would be one of the best ways that they can go ahead and contact you?
Yeah. So if you Google my name, you'll probably find my primary care practice. But to really learn more about vision training, Foveal, Foveal, visiontraining.com. Got tons of resources there, questionnaires. You can even phone the clinic. Kara is our office manager, and she's great at answering any questions. People want to know, well, how do I get in? Do I need a referral? And we accept referrals if they have a eye doctor that done some testing, they want to be referred. But we also, parents are this is the time of year, back to school, get your eyes checked. And if anything comes up at an eye exam where there's some tracking issues or eye teaming issues, hey, let's get them ready for back to school and give kids a great start to the next school year.
Amazing stuff. Well, thank you again, Chris, for coming on the show and doing this. I'm looking forward to maybe doing this down the line.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com or call 705-413-3775.